Welcome to Paint Along at the Plainfield-Guilford Township Public Library. Today we're going to go step by step through a seasonal landscape painting. I hope you'll join us. At any time you can fast forward to the end to see the finished product. If you've never painted with us before, you'll need a materials list. You'll find that in a previous video. I want to focus on arranging the composition. We're going to move the eye around the painting. So to do that, we're going to take a look. First of all, I have selected a photo of an apple tree. So I'm going to invite you to take a screenshot now as we use this in our painting. So the important part of designing this painting is moving the eye around the painting. In this particular painting, we're going to develop a circular composition. And what that means is, you can see that there is a very dark value here of the tree trunk. And here, your eye is kind of drawn up to this lightest light and the darkest dark. So your eye goes basically up, and then the leaves are going to form just a downward motion. And then of course the lines of the ground, and even the line back here, this is going to draw your eye in this direction. So your eye is going to basically go around in a circular mode, creating a circular composition. We're going to begin by sketching in, and to create my sketching materials, I'm just going to make a purple. And to get purple on the color wheel, we have a primary of blue and red, and to get that we get purple. So I'm just going to mix blue and red. Get a nice dark purple. And to deepen it, I'm going to add yellow. All right, so the horizon, the first thing that we're going to do is to place the horizon line on our painting. Our horizon is set very low. If we were to divide it into thirds, our horizon line is going to be about 1/3 from the bottom. So we're just going to do basically a line just across like that. The next portion that we want to place, we're placing the tree to the right, to my right. And by placing the tree, again, looking at the rule of thirds, you can also look up something called the golden mean. Google that, and that will explain that why we would want to put the focus of our tree, which to me actually is this knothole area, and we're putting that over into the corner of the painting, bringing our focal point off center and to the right. So we're going to place our tree. You can see it comes down below the horizon line, coming up. Then I see this branch that goes up and down. I'm going to go up and down, just mimicking that shape. Okay. Then the tree, then it slopes up in this direction. And actually, it's cut off here, which I really love this old gnarled tree. I think it's much more interesting than a really perfect apple tree. And then we have a limb that appears to come down here, and then up, and then down. So here we go, up, that, and then connected here. All right. So we're going to be thinking of the tree leaves as masses. So you can see that it's just one big block of this area. So we're coming up, down. The trees that are back here are much further away. We're going to give those kind of a blue cast perhaps in a little while. We'll get to that in a bit. Okay. There is a shape here just the ground, bare ground with apples here in it. So we want to indicate that. More kind of an oval shape. Kind of comes off the edge. That. We have shadows on this side in this corner. I'm just going to kind of block that in. All right. So we will also indicate some of these tree limbs that come straight up, just straight ones. They kind of go in many different directions. They don't have to be perfect or exactly and precisely what you're seeing in the tree. We'll come back in a bit and make sense of all of that. All right, that is our design, and I do want to put that little knot hole there just because I like it. Next portion is going to be blocking in, and at this point we're going to block in with just the good basic color of each item. Just for time's sake and for quick editing today, I'm going to go ahead and just fill in the shapes, and again we're just going to fill in the various shapes that we see, and then I'll come back in just a bit with details. All right, so I've blocked in just the basic color of each item in our painting. We've got a blue sky, just a basic gray trunk tree, and of course, you know, the background is a deep, deep green. We've got a lighter green with some yellow in it in the grasses, and then an area here with some ground showing through. So the next thing that we're going to work on the details, which is the bulk of the painting here in this one. A lot of leaves that I'm going to be using just a very fine tipped. This is a little bright. Actually, it looks like a filbert. It has a rounded tip. So we're going to be using a very small brush, doing a lot of details that way. I'm going to be starting from the top, working my way down, and if you think of it from the back forward. So let's go in and I don't really want to do anything on the sky, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to work on the trees, working some of those leaves and things into the blue of the sky. I have green on my palette today. Usually I just mix yellow and blue to make green, but because there's so much green in this, I decided to just go with some green, some sap green. I'm going to add blue to take it in the direction of a cool green. And then I'm going to pull some over here, and I'm going to pull some red into it to make it very warm. When you go with opposites on the color wheel, you're going to get a nice neutral, and that's what I'm doing here with this. It's a nice shadow color for green, or for those green leaves. I kind of feel like I want to put some of that into the trunk as well. So I'm going to just kind of pull, yeah, look at that. I like that green in that trunk. It's a darker value, so it really works. All right. Just for unity. All right, so let's begin to kind of work on some of these tree limbs. To get the tree limb color, I'm going to mix a deep purple again. Blue and red make purple. Deep tone, and then I'm going to go with some yellow. I'm going to use my liner brush to pull that in. Work my liner brush into that, just twirling it. All right, so let's start to look at some of these limbs. I'm just going to kind of press the liner brush in and then twist. Press the liner brush in, twist up into some other directions. You can see there's some here, got some here. quite a few up here in this area. I want to make sure that that's nice and a lot of liquid there, just to give it a little more. Again, that spring up. Quite a bit. We're going to have some that come down in this direction. Now I'm looking for more of these limbs just coming up in this direction. Up. And let your brush do the work. Up. Just go springing up. There's going to be some that come down into the grass area. We've got some leaves and things that are coming down here. Just going to add some more of that black right down here at the base. Go up. Taking that right off the edge, and that's okay. I think it really works to do that in this particular instance since it's a tree portrait. All right, that's a good start. I'm going to take just a wet brush and just kind of work kind of into this, kind of smudge some of these limbs so they're not quite wanted a bit more impressionistic. There, that's what I want to do here. Kind of soften some of this. Soften the edges a bit. And just going to soften the edges of some of these tree limbs. A little bit more of what I want to do. I'm going to go back in and clean it up in a bit. Right now we're going to add some green leaves. Using again a small detail brush. For this green, I'm going to add a good amount of yellow. I've already got red in it down here. I'm going to add some yellow to that. A little red, a little yellow, taking it kind of into a brown and into a green. Just kind of working on some different colors here. I've got some cool greens and some lighter tones, adding a little bit of white. I just want some variety right now in these greens. Just playing with it. All right, so let's begin to just add leaves. And we're going to think of leaves as being shapes in these clusters, okay? You can see that doesn't really show up very well against that background. So there we are. Okay, so we're going to come up here, add some leaves. Coming in here, add leaves. Over here, these are very dark, very evergreen. I'm going back up into that color. It's nice to have that up in the corner also. Kind of helps keep your eye in the center of the painting. Just dabbing leaves, not really indicating any particular leaf area. I want to go with a lighter value so they show up a little bit there. And when I go lighter, I can add white, or I can add some of this light blue. All of these are going to serve to lighten it without making it chalky looking. There we are. Right in here, add some of that. I like how it shows up against that deeper green that's behind it, which is part of the reason of putting that there. Indicating leaves, little clusters of them. I'm going to go with some more of that warm tone down here. Adding some yellow and red. Still needs more yellow. I think that'll be better. Yeah. Touch of white. Let's try that. See how much better that shows up now? Yeah, that's what I wanted. Here. Something a little darker in here. I want it to show up against that background of that green. There. All right, those are some good indications. Now I want to go in and work in the tree a little bit, just to kind of highlight that and bump it up. I'm taking some of this white into some of that green and that gray that I had here before. A little more of that. All right, so we know that we want that center. There's gray that goes through the whole thing. I don't want to lose that. But having a little color in here is really nice. Okay, adding a little more white. think it needs to go warm. A little red, tiny bit of yellow. Get a little white. This is a little bit more of a beige. Too much, quite honestly. It's a little too white, I think, in my opinion. I'm going to tone that down a bit. Go back into some of that gray. Just take it down. Yeah. There. That really dark area. Okay. All right, I'm happy with that for the most part. I want to just kind of indicate that that was a trunk. Okay, let's go in and put some apples in the foreground. They're red, but they're not bright red. They're mostly, we're going to indicate these little brownish circles. Now that you think of them as shapes, that dark, some of those dark tones there. Purple. Now we're going to go back over them, and some of them are going to get just a little hit of red on there. A little hit, not a lot. Some of them are going to get a little hit underneath to indicate a shadow. On this side. Let's put a couple in the tree. Don't forget, this is an apple tree. Okay. Now we're going to indicate some grasses, just going to kind of clean that up a little bit. Indicate grasses back in here with different tones of green. Indicate some grasses in here. There's some beautiful yellow grasses in the foreground. I'm going to do those as well. Throw those in there. I'm taking yellow and white, adding a little bit of red. Just a tiny indication of blue to tone it down. Take it in the direction of a beige. Need a little more blue. There we go. That's kind of what I want. airbrush for that. I think it needs a little more yellow, quite honestly. Just going to kind of indicate some, see, too white, too much white. That needs to go just, and sometimes, you know what, the way it looks on the palette, it's going to be a little different than how it looks on a painting. Let's see what that looks like. Let's try a little of that. I don't know if I love that, but it's there. I think what I really want to do now is go up and finish up the sky. All right, to finish up this sky and to go back and do the details, I'm going to have some blue. This is a lighter blue that I chose just to play with that sky. Let's do blue and white. I want a value that's lighter than what I've got going here, so that I really want the sky to pop. So I'm going to go into these areas and think of the negative space, the little spaces that are between the leaves. And that's what I want to paint. I just want to paint some of these little negative spaces. See how that pops? Makes that sky just really come alive. When I see an area that is like a limb that has been, when we did that sloppy limb technique earlier, this is going to help to define those spaces. This is one of my favorite parts of painting, negative space. like this area next to the trunk a little bit, just to define that a little better. Okay. Well, I hope you had fun with us today, and hope you come back sometime and paint along.